The construction industry has been experiencing an unprecedented mix of steeply rising material prices, supply chain issues, and labor shortages. Over the last year, input costs, which is the price of all materials and services, has increased by 26.3%. Meanwhile, bid prices, what contractors say they would charge to erect non-residential buildings, has gone up just 3.4%. Fed Chair Jerome Powell insists that the current inflation is transitory.
What I mean by transitory is just something that doesn't leave a permanent mark on the inflation process. You got to understand that it doesn't mean that the increases will be taken back. Some of them will be, but that's not really what it means.
Warren Buffett warned that we're experiencing much greater inflation than anticipated.
We're raising prices. People are raising prices to us. It's being accepted. There's more inflation going on than quite a bit more inflation going on than people would have anticipated.
Investor Michael Burry rightly predicted a sharp rise in inflation earlier this year. He also said that we are in the greatest speculative bubble of all time in all things, by 2 orders of magnitude. From June 2020 to June 2021, lumber and plywood more than doubled, rising 101%. Steel mill products jumped 88%, copper and brass mill shapes increased by 61%, aluminum mill shapes increased 33%, plastic rose 22%, and gypsum rose 18%. The Associated General Contractors of America, or AGC, issued a construction inflation alert to help people better understand the current situation. I recently spoke to Ken Simonson, author of the report and chief economist of the AGC. He synthesizes data and feedback from general contractors in his weekly newsletter, Data Digest. Even though lumber futures have plunged in recent months and copper futures have dropped 10%, current prices are still way above those a year ago. Also, any price cuts may not show up at your local distributor level or construction site anytime soon. Let's take a look at some of the many reasons behind this rapid inflation of construction materials and supply chain issues, and examine if we are trending towards uncontrolled inflation and possibly hyperinflation. At the start of the lockdown, many factories, mills, and fabrication facilities were shut down because they were deemed unessential. Others cut supply by 30% and limited shift work to comply with social distancing rules. This led to a negative supply shock. At the same time, we experienced a positive demand shock from people stuck at homes taking on DIY projects and renovations. Restaurants also added decks and railings for outdoor dining and acrylic barriers between tables. Low interest rates also led to a surge in new home construction. Once production facilities were allowed to open, many had trouble finding workers. Unemployment benefits, rent relief, child tax credit, or handouts are contributing factors, but there are many other reasons too. Many workers have been ill, quarantined, or required to take care of family members at home. It is estimated that 3 million women dropped out of the labor force last year to take care of kids because of the lack of childcare options. Another reason is the availability of remote, flexible, work from home options that are more enticing than outdoor manual labor. Even though construction jobs typically have a great career path where someone with a high school degree can work their way up to senior roles, they are just not as glamorous. Construction jobs typically require you to be on site 5 or 6 days a week at set times. Ken Simonson also brought up 2 other reasons for the low labor participation rates.
Construction and extraction workers have lower vaccination rates, higher vaccine hesitancy than other occupations. And so that implies that the contractors are going to have a harder time getting a full, healthy workforce. Yeah. And also, as we get more public agencies and private owners saying anybody on our premises has to be fully vaccinated or tested immediately before coming on site, this will make it harder for contractors to find workers who are eligible for that. The other thing that concerns me is that we've seen a huge increase in pay by historically low-wage sectors, warehouse and fast food in particular. They've gone from minimum wage or slightly above to $15 an hour. I'm not hearing about those kinds of pay increases in construction. So historically, the average hourly earnings in construction has been about 10% higher than in the overall economy. And I think that has really been the premium that has been necessary to get somebody to say, well, I may not like having to work so hard in such difficult weather conditions and so forth, but for 10% more, I do it. Well, now that premium has shrunk to 8%, and that may not be enough, particularly because this is across all jobs. And if you're looking in particular at entry-level jobs, someone being a helper or laborer versus indoor work, maybe at-home work, maybe flexible hours, or at least starting later in the day, all of those things make it harder for contractors to appeal in a market where workers do have so many choices.
The freeze in Texas earlier this year led to widespread power failures and the paralysis of the US petrochemical industry that normally operates around the clock. The production of US olefins dropped 80%, polyethylene dropped 33%, polypropylene dropped 36%, and paraxylene dropped 75%. These are building blocks for a wide range of construction products, including PVC pipes, plumbing fittings, vinyl siding, binders, glue for plywood and OSB, and adhesives for drywall. Cardboard, paper, plastic packaging, tapes, and fasteners also depend on resins. It took several months to bring petrochemical plants back to full capacity because of burst pipes, leaks, and damaged equipment. In some cases, petroleum fluids hardened into a wax because the flow stopped. Many plants had to be evacuated of all toxic and flammable gases to prevent an explosion. The production and shipping shutdowns in China and Europe are also contributing factors. This affected kitchen cabinets, appliances, tubs, tile, and elevators. Production has since increased, but we are now dealing with clogged ports and a lack of shipping containers, ships, and trucks. Ports are backed up, forcing ships to wait offshore for several days before unloading, which has slowed down delivery of materials by months in some cases. Tariffs and quotas on steel and aluminum that were imposed from 2018 to 2020 drove up the cost of many construction products and limited the number of suppliers. It was meant to create jobs in the US, which we have not seen. Manufacturers merely raised their prices to match the tariffs. In 2017, the US imposed new 20% tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber imports, which could have contributed to the increasing lumber prices. While the tariffs were cut back to 9% in December of 2020, there are talks of increasing them back to 18%. Just as the price of raw materials have started to level off, we are now dealing with increased diesel fuel prices that are affecting transportation costs. Any savings are now being eaten up by fuel surcharges. The eviction moratorium was established in March of 2020 to help struggling tenants avoid eviction, but is set to expire soon. While it is easy to paint landlords as rich money grabbers, 77% of rental units are actually owned by mom-and-pop operations that cannot afford to let people live rent-free in their homes. The extended eviction moratorium deadlines have cut the supply of housing and led to bottled-up inflation. When the moratorium is lifted, landlords will raise prices for their new tenants to account for new risks and to recoup their losses. So, we're in a nightmarish scenario. The cost of new construction will probably stay elevated for a while. Rents are going to increase. Supply chain issues will take a while to resolve. We still haven't caught up with the backlog of demand. With all the money that we're printing to put a band-aid on these deep wounds, are we headed towards hyperinflation or are we nowhere close to it?
Not even close to that. I think when you get to hyperinflation, it's a combination of things. And certainly the Fed has been very accommodative, as they say, in buying up mortgages as well as treasury instruments. And at some point they have to taper, that is to reduce that. And the one thing that Chair Powell does seem to have budged about is to say that that time is getting closer. And I think that's appropriate. But I don't worry that we're going to wind up with debt that we can't sell to somebody. At the moment, I don't see a wage price spiral setting in where we get 5% wage increases and then 10% price increases so companies can cover that, and then wage increases of double digits. Yes, we have seen, as I said, large wage increases at the bottom for selected industries, but it's not spreading throughout the economy yet. So certainly there's some risk there, but I remain optimistic.
In his quarterly report, Ken presented some advice to help the construction industry during these hard times. He advocates for price adjustment clauses to protect both parties from price swings. He believes that government officials need to remove or lessen any unnecessary hurdles to the importation, domestic production, transport, and delivery of products. Federal trade officials must end tariffs and quotas that are adding to the price increases and supply shortage. He calls for cooperation and communication between owners and contractors to reduce damage. I personally think that it's an exciting time to be in the construction industry. It has lagged so far behind others in terms of productivity, but this past year has been the wake-up call it desperately needed. Times of crisis usually lead to innovation. To deal with labor shortages, people are turning to automation and robotics, particularly 3D printed concrete. That brings up other dangers of pumping millions into a field that isn't fully developed yet. I'll link my video on that topic up here. Let me know how you're dealing with the current inflation and which meme coin you're invested in. I'll link my Patreon page in the description. A big thank you to everyone supporting me. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. See ya.